Hello everybody and welcome to another video in my game dev diary for this roguelike project. We will be continuing on with trying to make the random dungeon generator behavior. So it might be quite coding and a little bit maths heavy, but hopefully stick along this journey with me. So we got the initial list defined last time, so it was 5 elements long, and then it could randomly be 1 or 0 if the last element in the list had been a 1. So then we want to move on to the second list, so we need to have a while loop to make sure that some rooms are generated, because you don't want to have a section of the dungeon where there's no rooms, because it could make for a very small dungeon. So we need a while loop. So we'll say while the sum of all the list elements is equal to 0, keep doing it. So we need to set that up. So it's going to be plus and plus. And I'll be get item, and then as number, get item 0 from game attributes dungeon list 2. We need to copy that a couple of times. Well, 5 times. So get item 2 and bring this over here. Actually, I should put it in our for loop. Sorry, while loop, and it's equal while it's equal to 0. Sometimes these are a nightmare to drag around. So while this is equal to 0, get item 1, drag this in, get item 2, this will be get item 3, and push this over here, and get item 4. So those will always hopefully initially be 0. So the first time around, this loop should get into this loop, and then if at least one room is generated, then it will not satisfy this condition, so it will get out of this while loop as equal to 0. So we want that there. So while that is equal to 0, we pretty much want to do this again. So we'll take this out, copy it, and undo, and paste it in here, and let's repeat 5 times, and we will say set random number 1 between and get if is equal to 1, and then I think that's right, but we just want it at 0.5, so we want, well, maybe put it at 0.4. This item, and it's not +1, it's just the same loop number, but it'll be in dungeon list 2, not dungeon list 1, as number with the 1 in dungeon list 2. So what that should mean then is, if the lists and the elements inside the lists are the vertical rooms, then if in dungeon list 1, if there is a room set equal to 1, then that room exists. Then dungeon list 2 will be to the right, and saying if there is a room in dungeon list 1, look to see if we should create a room in dungeon list 2, and at the probability that this number is greater than 0.4, we will set in dungeon list 2 equal to, we will set that value equal to 1, and then there will be a room there. So we'll test that now and print it out. Debug, print, and hopefully this while loop doesn't break the code. So we need to go to outside dungeon test scene, and hopefully we will see two list numbers, list 1 and list 2. Okay, so create it 1 and then create it 1. So that seems to be working. We'll try it one more time, and hopefully it changes it around what the lists are, and hopefully we always, the ones in the second list should only be on ones beside the ones in the first list, so that one lines up with the second one, third one, fourth one. Yep, so that seems to be working. So we need to do that for the next 3 lists. So we're almost there. It's just copying the same bit of code but changing the list numbers, and then that's pretty much the random dungeon generator bit. That's our layout for the dungeon generated. So it's just a matter of taking those numbers and putting them into the scene and making sense of it, so that we have doors that line up to our dungeon layout. So we just need to copy this bit. So should only take maybe a little bit quicker than I thought it would. Repeat this. And just take out dungeon list 2 bits and replace it with dungeon list 3. Shouldn't take too long, and then we will have our random dungeon generator. Well, the layout anyway. It will take a bit of work to set up the actual scenes to get them the way we want, but we're making good progress. So I'm just taking these out so I can copy the blank one, so I'll have to delete it again. So if I take this out, so this would be the third one, so copy, I'll be dungeon list 3, paste, this would be dungeon list 4, wrong place to do it. Oh, stop mucking me around. Be dungeon list 4, and this will be dungeon list 5. So it goes to, so attributes 3, 3, and then follow these up with the 3s. Then back down here, and then it's 2, 3. So that was pretty easy done. We'll put the print statements at the end. So then we're on the dungeon list 4. And then dungeon list 3 here, and dungeon list 4, and then the last bit. So we're almost done, thankfully, for this bit of code, because it's a bit tedious when you're just setting up loops and loops and loops without actually seeing what's going on. And plus, since it's just setting up really an array for us, it's not too interesting to watch, but it'll be worth it in the long run. And then we just want to do our print statements, so we can do a wee quick check here. So comment, no, not comment, print. We want to put a print here, put a print here, and we'll probably do 2 tests just to make sure that dungeons look different than they're made up how they're meant to be. I just keep referring to dungeons, but they're just really sequences of zeros and ones, which we will make into dungeons if you stick with me. Trust me on that. So I think that's it done. So if we go test this, an outside dungeon test scene, then hopefully we will see 5 lists, and then we've got our ones and zeros. So that was just a straight line. Java null point exception. Ooh, that's not good. So I must have missed something somewhere. Or maybe I had one already open. We'll test it again and see. Hopefully we won't. 1-1. Yeah, I'd like a bit more randomness than that. Hopefully test it again and get something different. Hopefully. They all seem to be quite... maybe I haven't set the random number again. Oh no, this one looks quite different. So we have 4 and 4 and then 1. Yeah, that'd be a bit more interesting dungeon. So it does seem to be working, which is good. So what we need to do now then is configure the ones and zeros into what they actually mean for the dungeon. So we need to create a scene creator for our dungeon. So as I said before in the video previous to this, here is what our dungeon is going to look like. And then it has 4 possibilities to go into different rooms, but we know from our array of ones and zeros whether these are going to be doors or just walls. So we'll set up a scene behavior to create the doors and walls. We need to also define the player's position in the dungeon. So before we do that, we'll set up a game attribute. It's going to be another list. So create new game attribute, player position, or dungeon player position, list. First one will be X and the first one will be Y. Should we set that to 0, 0? Yeah, we probably should. How do you remove them? Remove, because then it means that it corresponds to the indexes here. So start off at 0, 0. Doesn't player position. Cool. And then dashboard, scene behavior. And door, wall, creator, dungeon 1. So on creation, and then we want to say according to the player position. So what we want to do is create attributes is current row, and we set that as a number, I think. Yeah. Then we say left row and right row. Left row, which would be the list on the left, and then we have right row, which will be the row on the right, which will be the list on the right. So if we're in list 1, we're at position 1, 1. So if attributes if is equal to well, it's okay. Maybe we should set that equal to 1 rather than 0 like we did, but it doesn't really matter. Numbers as number. And get the game attribute. If player position get item 0 so we'll say, I'll put a wee comment in here, comment item 0 DPP, which is dungeon player position, is list number IE column. So if you're in 0, then your current row is can you get current row is 1. Hopefully this will work. We'll see where this goes. We'll set this up and we'll stop the video, and our next video will then actually start hopefully seeing whether this dungeon does build or doesn't build. So set current row, set left row to 0 because it doesn't exist, and set right row to 2. Okay, so again, thanks for listening. Probably this video again has been quite code heavy with not too much else going on, but that should all change in the next video. We should start to get the actual dungeon layout actually being created through the next bit of code, which we can start running through the dungeon then, and then we can start populating the dungeon with items and the enemies. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section. And until next time, see ya.